Great to see you again. Laura here. It's been a minute. It's beautifully here in Southwest Denver. It's about mid-June, and I wanted to invite you out on a nature hike with me today. I've been feeling a little bit anxious lately, and when that happens, getting outside in nature and looking around and just slowing down and observing things is just such a good reset. So I wanted to invite you out today with me, and we're gonna bring along the nature journal, do a little sketching, a little observing, a little journaling, and maybe take some stuff back and see what we find today. So let's go.
Hello friends, thanks for joining me today. So why go on a nature walk? Well, for me, getting outside almost immediately calms my anxiety. Not only does the fresh air and easy exercise help, but it's the intentional act of stepping outside, out of your own mental bubble and away from the stresses of the day. And science backs this up too. Time in nature lowers cortisol, our body's natural stress hormone, and boosts dopamine and serotonin, the feel good brain chemicals. There's so much to discover just outside your own front door, no matter where you live, rural, urban, suburban, even just checking out the local parks in your area. Today, I'm heading out my own front door, just walking around the neighborhood, along the bike paths and open spaces that we have in the area, and just see what I can find. So, why start a nature journal? For me, it's helped me slow down and feel more connected to the world around me. When I stop to really look, labeling a plant, sketching a bird, or just writing down the current weather, it brings a sense of order and peace. Taking time out of my day to journal and sketch what I see on a nature walk has a very grounding effect when you have that stuck in your own head feeling. And often when I write about what I notice, I begin to notice how I feel too, and it becomes a kind of therapy. So when the world feels a little overwhelming, try stepping outside. Sometimes a simple walk can turn into a moment of wonder. First things first, let's pack up the supplies we're going to need on our walk. How long you want to be out and where you're going will determine what you want to bring. And you don't need a ton of stuff. You could even just carry a notebook and a pencil in your pocket. Since I'm planning on being out for a few hours, I'm going to bring what I think I might need. Starting with a small backpack, mine is the Rover Pack Mini from Topo Designs. Of course, I got to bring that nature journal. I use a Traveler's Company notebook with a blank sketchbook insert inside. I also use this pencil pouch that'll keep utensils handy while I'm out there. What utensils you want to bring is totally up to you. I always bring at least a pencil, an eraser, and a couple of pens. Also going to bring some watercolor supplies, including paints and some travel watercolor brushes. Go check out my video on creating your own travel watercolor palette out of an Altoids tin. Since I'm planning on wandering around for a few hours today, I'm definitely going to bring some water, sunscreen, sunglasses, and a hat. Also in my bag, I usually carry a pocket knife and a couple of Ziploc baggies in case I want to collect items or pick up any trash along the way. Oh yeah, and don't forget the snacks. I've got a few walnuts and peanuts here. All right, all packed up, let's get out there. As I step outside, I try to leave behind the mental noise. I let myself slow down. No rush, no destination, just paying attention to what's around me. I like to look for little details. A wildflower I've never noticed before, the texture of bark, birdsong in the trees. I don't always know what I'm looking at, and that's okay. Curiosity is more important than answers. However, when I do want to identify what I'm looking at, I bust out the Seek app by iNaturalist. It's totally free, it's easy to use, and it logs your observations so you can refer back to them later, which is perfect for journaling back home. And this isn't a plug or anything, I just absolutely love this app so much and everyone needs to know about it.
Now this here is a Rocky Mountain juniper, and you can tell that it is because of the way that it is.
How neat is that?
Alright, you know I had to make a nature walk reference at some point. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do yourself a favor and look it up after this video, of course.
That's pretty neat.
There's so much life when you really start paying attention. The sound of leaves rustling in the breeze, that ladybug that flies right into your face, or even a red-winged blackbird mama flittering around her nest like this one snuggled into the cattails of this pond. There's just something about observing and labeling a plant or sketching a leaf that not only helps me remember what I saw and experienced, but also helps me make sense of the world in a way. Remember, this isn't meant to be a hike, it's a wander. And wandering is a wonderful thing when your mind feels busy. Nature has a way of reflecting back calm when you really start to notice it. I gotta say, today my neck of the woods did not disappoint. I was graced with seeing so many beautiful things, like this prickly pear cactus with a brilliant yellow bloom, these abundant yellow flowers across the hillside, and even a red-tailed hawk that flew right past me that of course was way too magical to capture on camera. You know, unfortunately, I usually find some trash somewhere along the way, so that's why I always like to bring an extra trash bag or empty bag and, just do the earth a favor. She could definitely use it. After finding a good place for a break, I try to sit and soak it all in. I make note of all my senses. The things I can see, the things I can hear, the things I can smell, even the things I can feel. I would not recommend tasting anything though. There's something so incredibly grounding about sitting still in nature and just observing. If I feel up to sketching or journaling while out in the field, I don't try too hard. Even though my drawings aren't perfect, the act of putting something down on paper is a great start. You can always finish it back home if you need to. And most importantly, you don't have to think of yourself as an artist. You just have to be curious. I know it can sometimes seem like a lot to ask of yourself to set aside an hour, 2 hours, to go outside and wander, to just sit and observe. But trust me, if you can find that time in your busy week to make that space for yourself, it really is a magical thing. Being in nature is healing for me. Sometimes healing isn't about fixing anything. It's about noticing, being with yourself quietly without judgment. Nature doesn't ask anything of me. It just is, and that is deeply comforting.
So it is starting to get kind of dark and cloudy, and I'm on top of this ridge right now, and this is probably not going to be safe for much longer. So I'm going to call it a day and head back to my home base.
Hold up, did I just notice that you're not subscribed yet? I thought we were friends. Nah, it's all good. Make sure you do that though, and also like this video if you haven't yet. Back home now with some echinacea tea, and I'm getting my supplies together at the kitchen table and reflecting on the walk. My favorite notebook setup is this one from Traveler's Company. The leather ages so nicely, and it's super handy to be able to swap out different inserts. I've started a new nature journal today with a blank sketchbook insert. The utensils you use don't need to be fancy or expensive. I like to sketch first with pencil, then use a permanent ink pen that'll work well for filling in with watercolor. My favorite is the Fudenosuke brush pen from Tombow. They have soft and hard tip versions. I like the hard tip for sketching and doodling. One thing I like to do, either while I'm out on the walk or as soon as I get back, is jot down a quick page of notes: time, weather, location, and a list of the species I identified. It's super helpful later when I want to spend more time on my pages, especially when I'm back home and ready to add more detail or spend more time on drawing. Today my journal is leaning more heavily on illustration, just because I'm in that kind of mood today. Some days I write more, some days I just sketch. It really depends on what I'm feeling. I also like to add a little lettering for a headline. It's just something I've carried over from my background in graphic design and hand lettering, and it just helps me get into the creative flow. Your journal doesn't have to look anything like mine. In fact, it shouldn't. That's the beauty of it. This practice is deeply personal. You might be more of a writer or a note taker. Maybe you like jotting down thoughts and poems, or even just making lists of what you saw and heard. Nature journaling isn't about aesthetics, it's about awareness. You're creating a record of your own experience in the world in whatever way feels true to you. When I'm back at home, I always start by pulling up reference photos. If I was able to get a clear picture with my phone out on a walk, I'll use that, but honestly, sometimes I just look up a better photo online to help me capture the details more accurately. I like to begin with a light pencil sketch, just blocking in the basic shapes. You want to keep it loose. Think circles, ovals, and simple lines. Then I might go in and refine some of the details like a flower's petals, leaves, and stems. This is when I usually bring in a waterproof pen, but I encourage you to use whatever tools you feel most comfortable with. After I have the general drawing done and I'm happy with the ink work, I like to color in with simple watercolor washes. Nothing fancy or overly detailed, just dabbing in a little color to bring it to life. The most important thing to remember is that your sketches and drawings don't need to be perfect. Perfect, like what does that even mean? Scribbles, smudges, wobbly lines, accidental paint drips, they're all part of it. The goal here isn't to make art or journal pages for anyone else. This is just for you, to observe, to remember, and to reflect. To turn what you saw and felt into something tangible and meaningful, however you choose to express it. Now that is perfect. As I sketch, I'm reminded that it doesn't really take much to reconnect with the world around me or with myself. Just a little time, a little attention, and a willingness to slow down. Remember, this is your time. You set aside this time for you. Try to let go of the outside noise, even just for a moment. Give yourself that space to breathe and to be present. If nature walks and journaling weren't really on your radar before, I hope this gives you a gentle nudge to give it a try, especially if you've been needing a little boost for your mental health. Sometimes a slow walk and a blank page can be the best kind of medicine. You don't need fancy supplies or any kind of artistic training, just curiosity and a few quiet moments to notice what's around you. What a desolate place would be a world without a flower. This was the quote on the tea bag from the tea I was drinking, and that felt quite fitting, so I'm going to add that in. And since you've made it this far in the video and you haven't liked it yet, go do that so that I know that we're friends. Okay, thanks. And here's a little flip through of the 3 spreads I ended up with. I do want to hear from you guys too. Like, do you go on nature walks? Do you like to journal? What are some of your favorite tips? Let me know in the comments, and or tag me if you share your journal pages. I'd love to see what others are noticing and creating. I'm hoping to make this into a monthly thing, especially as the wildflowers and plants shift with the seasons, showing new colors and little surprises each time. So I'll see you again in July for another nature walk and journaling sesh. So y'all better make sure you're subscribed and those notifications are turned on. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I will see you again soon. Until then, take a deep breath and take care.